In late 2008, the global economy was collapsing. Banks were failing, credit lines froze, and trillions of dollars were evaporating from the market in a matter of weeks. In the middle of this chaos, a small aerospace company called SpaceX was bleeding cash. They had attempted 3 orbital rocket launches, and all 3 had exploded. At the same time, an electric car startup called Tesla was also running on fumes. Production costs for their first vehicle, the Roadster, were spiraling out of control, and there was no clear path to turning a profit. Both companies were headed for bankruptcy. Their CEO, Elon Musk, looked at his personal bank account. He had a choice. He could pour his last remaining dollars into one company and ensure the other one died, or he could split his remaining funds between both and almost certainly lose everything. To understand how a person even makes a decision with those stakes, we have to look at how he built his tolerance for extreme risk in the first place. Decades earlier, in 1971, Musk was growing up in South Africa. He was a quiet kid who struggled to fit in, often isolating himself to read science fiction and study technology. At 12 years old, he taught himself computer programming. He built a simple video game called Blastar and sold the code for $500. It was a modest payout, but it proved a crucial concept, that writing code could actually generate capital. Believing the United States was the only environment with enough capital and talent to support massive technological projects, he eventually made his way to North America. He arrived with very little. In the mid-90s, he and his brother launched an internet directory called Zip2. They couldn't afford an apartment and an office, so Musk simply slept on the floor under his desk, showering at the local YMCA. That period of physical and financial starvation eventually paid off. Compaq purchased Zip2, turning Musk into a millionaire overnight. He had achieved the standard definition of success. But he didn't use the win to buy comfort. He used it as the price of admission for a much harder gamble. When a founder secures their first major exit, the standard playbook is simple. Diversify the money, buy a house, and secure a comfortable lifestyle. Musk ignored the playbook. He took his newly earned fortune and pushed it straight into a highly speculative online banking startup. The early internet was a volatile sector. Competitors were aggressively trying to destroy each other, and well-funded startups were vanishing on a weekly basis. This bar chart visualizes his financial trajectory during this time. You can see his net worth hit that initial $1 million mark with Zip2, but rather than holding it, he reinvested every dollar back down to zero. That company became PayPal. When eBay acquired it for $1.5 billion, it yielded a personal payout of over $180 million for Musk. Look at this threshold line. It marks the benchmark for a secure retirement. By age 31, his net worth towered so far above this line, he could retire for lifetimes. He didn't see that wealth as a destination for personal comfort. He viewed it as a tool, the massive amount of capital required to break into industries like orbital spaceflight and automotive manufacturing. So he bypassed early retirement. Instead, he channeled his fortune into 2 incredibly capital-intensive sectors: manufacturing electric vehicles and building orbital rockets. Automotive and aerospace are notoriously hostile to new entrants. Industry veterans and even his close friends told him he was throwing his money into an incinerator. Which brings us back to 2008. The global economy is in freefall. SpaceX has failed 3 times. Tesla is bleeding cash. He was days away from total financial ruin. His personal funds were nearly exhausted, and he was physically breaking down under the stress of watching his life's work dissolve. This is the survivorship trap. A history of winning massive gambles doesn't change the underlying mathematics. When you continually scale up your risk, you eventually reach a point where you are genuinely standing on the edge of zero. Facing the ultimatum to choose one company or lose both, he made his decision. He divided his final dollars, effectively guaranteeing his own personal bankruptcy, to force both companies to keep operating. The math finally broke in his favor. On its 4th attempt, a SpaceX rocket successfully reached orbit, securing a massive NASA contract. Days later, on Christmas Eve, Tesla closed an emergency round of funding to keep the lights on. He didn't survive by retreating to safety. He survived by steering directly into the storm and accepting the absolute worst-case scenario. To build something that pushes the boundaries of what is possible, protecting your past victories isn't enough. You have to remain continually, audaciously willing to risk ruin.